A new Batman game has risen, this time with WB Games Montreal at the reins. With Rocksteady's previous and highly acclaimed Arkham games, they are stepping into big shoes, but can they ultimately fill them? The game takes place approximately 2 years into Batman's career, on one fateful night, Christmas Eve, at a time when he isn't fully understood yet, or even acknowledged to exist. Upon learning that Roman Sionis, aka Black Mask, has put a $50 million bounty on his head, he sets out to put a stop to his schemes along with 8 of the world's most deadly assassins that are in town to claim the formidable reward. The police department of Gotham City is as corrupt as can be, and some are even trying to collect the bounty on the Batman for themselves. Amidst this chaos, there are only a few by-the-book cops left. One of them is Captain James Gordon, who is not yet a commissioner. He treats Batman as an outlaw, and their friendship as well as partnership has yet to be established. The writing and story greatly captures that of a comic book and displays a much rawer and darker side of the Dark Knight than ever before. It is easily compared to that of the previous games, if not even better. It delves into the origin story of Batman, but also some of his villains and the psychology of their minds. Accompanied by stellar voice acting talents such as Roger Craig Smith and Troy Baker, the story is definitely one of the strongest points in this game. The masked vigilante, as some still refer to him by, is still very much an inexperienced crime fighter, all things considered, and the game does a very good job at conveying that, both through the gameplay but also through the excellently driven narrative. Banter between the many thugs of Gotham makes a welcome return, and the depictions of the common criminal minds are sure to crack a smile or two, even on this gloomy night. If you decide to listen in on them, many will actually gossip and talk about the story elements taking place in the game as you progress, which is a very nice detail. During fights, he takes a more defensive stance as he is still not as experienced, unsure of both his capabilities and his own limits. This game is beautiful, truly a feast for the eyes. Unreal Engine 3 is still going strong, and the PC gets even more eye candy, with features such as DirectX 11, tessellation, high resolution textures, dynamic snowfall, and NVIDIA physics, just to name a few. The map this time around is about twice the size of the map in Arkham City, and consists of new and old Gotham. It feels suitably cold and silent, deliberately so, with mostly criminals roaming the streets. The fact that Gotham feels so gloomy and grim, even on Christmas Eve, makes for a great contrast and further molds the impression of a dark Gotham City. There are a bunch of other things worthy of mention, which add up to make a more fulfilling product. For example, snow dynamically conforms to the elements it interacts with, lens flare and light beams make the outdoor Christmas decorations shine, the acute attention to detail in even the most mundane places, story elements and references in the environment are thoughtfully placed. It's details such as these that makes this game one of the best looking PC games on the market. The pre-rendered as well as pre-animated in-engine cutscenes are a huge step up compared to that of the previous games. They offer more action-packed sequences and lifelike animations. However, the automated lip syncing in-game falls a little flat and leaves something to be desired in its execution. Overall, the production quality is next to none and deserves much praise. From time to time, it will feel like watching a blockbuster movie at the cinemas, except of the notion that you were actually the one playing it. For veteran players, this game will feel instantly familiar to you. From the get-go, Batman has access to some of the more familiar gadgets, such as the grapnel boost, the cryptographic sequencer, the remote-controlled Batarang, and gliding through the city feels just as tight and responsive as before, with the timely addition of a fast travel system via the Batwing. The free-flow combat system is for the most part untouched, which is a good thing, but they've added in a couple of new mechanics and enemy variety without sacrificing on the core of the combat mechanics. One of the new additions to his arsenal are the shock gloves. Batman can charge them up by successfully landing hits on enemies and activate them to deal more damage, punch through shields, and counter stun rods. These are a very nice addition as they add a new strategic element to the combat system. They strike an intricate balance without feeling too overpowered. Some of the newly added enemies are the martial artists who can counter Batman's attacks, and also a heavy enforcer whose armor needs to be chipped away before Batman can go in for the takedown. They spice things up and gives the player a harder challenge. Even though the main storyline is focused, Gotham is still very much plentiful of side missions to partake in and sink your time into. Most are admittedly not directly connected to the main story and don't impact anything in it, but they still serve to provide variation in the gameplay, unlock upgrades, grab collectibles, and shed more light on the many criminals of Gotham City, much akin to the previous Arkham. The detective mode has this time around been a little more fleshed out, and while it is a step up, the system still feels somewhat contrived and very much still holds your hand throughout the investigation of a crime scene. In my opinion, it would have been much better if there were steps to mess up, objects in the crime scene to be scanned that weren't necessarily innately connected to the actual crime, and letting it be up to the player to solve the puzzle by putting 2 and 2 together. Boss fights in the first title were somewhat criticized, to the extent that they actually improved upon them in Arkham City. In Arkham Origins, however, they take it a step further and have improved them greatly. They are varied and put the skills you've come to master throughout the series to the test, feeling less like QuickTime events and more like the proprietary, free-flow fighting system you've come to know and love. Many new skills have been added along with a new skill tree system. Now you need to be extra picky about which skills you choose, and unless you actively grind experience in the game, you will most likely not get to try every new ability in your first playthrough of the game. Challenge maps are also back, which is a new thing, also serves as a training ground from within the Batcave, where you can hone your skills and earn experience points to unlock more of Batman's many abilities. Upon completion of the game, you will get access to a new Game Plus mode, much like the previous titles, where the game throws much harder enemies at you from the beginning and removes counter indicators. However, you get to keep all your upgrades previously unlocked to level things out. For the even more hardcore players, upon completing New Game Plus, you will also gain access to the mode called I Am the Knight, which will not allow saves and limits Batman to just one life for the entire playthrough. Now, some of you might wonder, weren't the grapnel boost just a prototype by Lucius Fox in Arkham City? And yes, you're right, it was. So why would Batman be using this gadget in Arkham Origins right from the get-go? Well, obviously it doesn't make sense that Batman would be sporting this gadget 5 years prior to the events of Arkham Asylum, but sacrificing a tiny bit of the story's integrity for better gameplay is more important in my opinion, and I think they opted for that choice. Of course, if we weren't talking about a game, it would be a different matter entirely. With the game also comes a multiplayer mode, developed by the British studio Splash Damage, the team responsible for Brink. It offers a game mode called Invisible Predator Online that basically throws 3 teams of 3 versus 3 versus 2 against each other, where the Bane Gang and the Joker Gang fights over capture points, and the team of Batman and Robin is put in a Predator-style gameplay mode to try and take both gangs out. The multiplayer mode unfortunately feels sluggish, with unresponsive character movement, cluttered map design and the very few maps that are actually available, and arguably a few balancing issues. It doesn't have much lasting appeal and feels rushed. Overall, if you are a Batman fan, but generally just a fan of good games, this is definitely a must-buy. Where the multiplayer falls flat on its stomach, the single player greatly makes up for it, offering one of the best told Batman stories in the series yet, with improved gameplay and a bigger playground for Batman to dispense justice. But let's be honest, who would buy this game for the multiplayer? I can definitely say that I highly recommend this game to anyone, especially fans of The Dark Knight. Thank you guys for watching, and if you enjoyed the review, feel free to like, comment and subscribe.